I finally played Elden Ring. I actually did play it back in 2022. I tried to go the route a lot of people suggested playing by not looking up anything and kind of just taking in the game, and I kind of didn't like it. I got lost, I didn't know what to do. I've played very little of Souls games before. I've probably played up to the first boss of like Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, but overall, I kind of didn't really mess with too much FromSoftware games. I have played some other games in the Souls-like genre, but nothing ever really grabbed me as much as Elden Ring did. Back then, in my end of the year tier list, I kind of just brushed Elden Ring off. I don't know exactly when the seamless co-op mod came out, but I also tried that when it first released. It worked pretty well. There were a few significant bugs, and I did maybe 20 hours on my single player character, around 20 hours on the seamless co-op character, and at the end of the day, I just didn't really like it. I don't know. I really wanted to. I mean, I love the theming, the environments. I think the bosses and all the lore look really sick. I mean, that's always been a plus for Elden Ring for me. Out of all the FromSoft games, Elden Ring is considered to be one of the easier ones due to it being open world. I know it's a lot more accessible to casuals because it's not a linear experience. If you get stuck at a boss, you can leave, level up, and come back, which I really like that about Elden Ring. Over the next 2 years, I would go in and out of playthroughs for the game, try to pick it up here and there, and it didn't really stick until recently. With the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC getting announced and seeing all these people play it, Elden Ring videos getting into my YouTube algorithm again, I wanted to try it out. So I made a new character. I made the conscious decision to, look up stuff, look up quests, look up items and builds because I wasn't going to be able to do all that shit by myself. I found myself having a much more of an enjoyable experience. When I was first playing, trying to do everything vanilla and blind, it is cool to find stuff on your own, experience stuff on your own, but I get fucking lost. I'm dumb. I don't know what to do in these games, so I really should have just looked up guides back then. I don't know why I was so focused on having the true, definitive Elden Ring experience. And it's not like there weren't immersive or emerging moments in my guided playthrough. There was a couple times where I found out a puzzle or found an NPC or read a little entry on the item that guided me. That was something I actually didn't know on my first playthrough. I didn't know that you could press a button to read more info on the item. So, that really helped when I actually did that on key items. I tried to get as far as I could in some areas, try to get a loose guideline for builds or story progression, and I got pretty far before deciding to do a co-op character with my buddy Aaron again. I did a full playthrough on the seamless co-op mod, and I gotta say, it's a lot better. I was looking at old videos from the old version of the mod where the lock-on was broken or you couldn't fast travel, and it's a lot more seamless and works better now. It's even more seamless than it ever was. If you don't know about this mod, it's one of the most popular mods for Elden Ring because in the base game, the only way you can play co-op is through summoning, which is this archaic co-op mechanic from all the Souls games where you have to place down a summon sign and summon your guy, and after you beat the boss, your guy goes away, or if you die, everyone has to disconnect and reconnect. Seamless co-op keeps everyone in the same world, keeps all the progression tied up nicely, and it's crazy how good it is. Base game Elden Ring is, I believe, a peer-to-peer connection, which means your connection is directly based off the person you're playing with, but the mod actually uses the Steam servers, which means you're all having the same kind of thing. I don't really know how that works. Again, I'm dumb, so the mod worked out really well this time around. There were still a couple issues with certain things spawning in the world or the world changing, but nothing that couldn't be fixed by, troubleshooting or just restarting the game. And I did it. I beated Elden Ring with my friend. I did a dragon cult incantation build with my character Haas Redman of the Redman clan. You got these sick ass fucking red lightning spears and dragon spells, and the game is just fucking awesome. No matter what stat scaling you primarily focus on, there's always like a bunch of cool shit you can do. It's very easy to get over leveled or overpowered and just over prepared for bosses if you want. Most of the time, co-op is a bit easier. It does scale up the bosses, but if the boss is focusing on my strength buddy and I can just beam it with lightning spears over and over, that's obviously going to be way easier than if I was by myself. After beating it co-op, I played a bit more on my solo character, George Mossman, who is a magic intelligence user. And I gotta say, I like it, you know? After 100 hours of gaming on this game, I do think it's actually pretty good, and I definitely overlooked it back when it came out. I get really excited hearing people talk about their love for the game or how hyped up Elden Ring and Bloodborne, are. It's kind of weird to talk about like, oh, I finally like it now, because it's like, honestly, just play whatever you want. You don't have to force yourself to like anything. Now, while I did end up liking at least the base game of Elden Ring, I didn't actually play the DLC yet. There are still some reservations or criticisms I have of the game. I think the quest design or the side quest progression of the game kinda sucks. There's certain stuff that I only came across or knew how to do because I looked up an item I saw in a video. Then I looked up like, oh, you gotta do all this shit and talk to this guy at this time and go reload the area, go back. I think the quests kind of just stink ass a little bit. I understand what they're going for. The Dark Souls games are esoteric. They want that experience. FromSoft games are probably going to be that kind of esoteric quest design forever. That's the flavor. I just don't really like it. I think if you did have any reservations on Elden Ring because of that, looking up guides is completely fine. That kind of guided experience, it can still be pretty enjoyable. I'm not always in the mood to be playing a game with a window open with a bunch of fucking tabs and maps, but for the most part, it was still like pretty fun to go through different quests for cool ass items, like the Moon Greatsword thing. That thing is pretty cool. Dungeons are actually kind of butt. Every dungeon is this like dirty, mossy stone typical dungeon, and there's like imp gargoyles in it. Those guys are fucking bastards. That's the worst enemy in the entirety of Elden Ring. Yeah, every dungeon you like organically find is pretty much like the same thing over and over, so I mean it's kind of disappointing, especially when the exploration part of the game is so encouraged. It does kind of suck when you feel like you just want to skip a dungeon because it's kind of going to be the same thing you've already done a bunch of times. There's not really puzzles, but there's like mazes and kind of trap areas you have to solve, but it's nothing too involved. Another thing that kind of sours the exploration part of the game is the upgrade system. The way you upgrade your weapons in this game is based on the rarity of the weapon you're upgrading, whether it be a legendary item or a random stick you found on the ground. You have to find smithing stones in the world to upgrade your weapon higher and higher. So you start off at 1, and then maybe the starting area you can find smithing stone 1, 2, and 3. The next area you'll find 4, 5, 6, and it goes all the way to 10 for legendary weapons. It just kind of stinks when you randomly don't have a certain smithing stone. There's nothing you can really do about it other than having a shop available. The only way you can have a shop available to buy certain smithing stones is by completing a random dungeon, which, as far as I'm concerned, you might have not any fucking idea where it is. Like, there's a bunch of things in this game where if I didn't look it up, my shit would just like not be upgraded, or I wouldn't have a necessary item. My very first time playing this game, I didn't even know the wondrous physic was a thing, so I just didn't have a very important key item. That goes back to, just explore the starting area more. There's a limit to how much I want to aimlessly walk around and find things. I would say there's enough items for you to explore and mess around with, but there's not an overabundance. Those are probably my main gripes with the game. I still think it's really well deserved of all the awards it won back in 2022. The environments are beautiful and varied. You have underground space cities, crazy swamps of puke, broken gravitational dragon castles. I mean, the game is just sick. Ashes of War and weapon skills were a really cool addition. You kill a boss who has sick moves, and then you can get their weapon and do their sick move. I mean, kind of excitement and wanting to try that out is a really big positive for the game and really leads you into certain builds. I like that you can actually respec in this game. It is based off of a consumable item, but they give you a decent amount if you know what you're doing. Most of the time I would fill requirements for a weapon I like, and then kind of just fill other stats that I needed. I'm really glad I came back to the game because I've always been really interested and really wanted to get into it, but something in my dumb brain didn't want to look up guides and stuff. So I think coming back to it recently was actually really sick. I can't wait to play DLC because I haven't yet. And I think if your opinion on the game at all aligned with mine back in 2022, I'd say give it another shot. It's sick, it's fun as hell. I'm really recommending Elden Ring in 2024, so that's cool. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully that was entertaining to hear my opinion on one of the most revered games of this decade. Yeah, have an excellent day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.